message to the billionaire class: you can't have it all.
Yes. Thank you for joining us with the Evolution of Now. Another week of the Evolution of Now. I'm a little awkward. I don't do this very often, but I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm here joined by my amazing co-host, Aubrey. How you doing, Aubrey?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
Nice. Very good.
Got Skittles, and they're nicely sorted into separate colors.
Oh my goodness, life is good. That's the best way to have it, because at least you know what you're getting. You have them in piles.
Exactly.
And and
it's all one flavor. I don't know why people act like it's weird. It's normal.
Yeah.
They're weird.
I don't think that's so weird. That's like a human. That's like a psychology thing. That's such a psychology thing. Where it's like, hey, you can color something a certain way, and people will think it's this flavor. But also we're joined by our other equally amazing co-host. I mean that, Chris. Christopher, how you doing, Chris?
I'm here with these plebeians today. Yes, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay.
If the microphone would pick it up, I would crack my knuckles right now.
I don't even know what that means. But anyway.
It means you're going to get it.
That's exactly what I would expect from a plebeian. Anyway.
We were grilling Chris earlier. Aubrey and I were grilling Chris earlier about his deeper tone. Like, apparently he has a deeper tone, which now that we're recording, I don't hear it.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
It was a put on.
I have no idea.
But anyway.
These people are weird.
He's just over dramatic. That's all there is to it.
That's totally it. I'm just a drama queen. I'm just, living my life the drama queen way,
Hey, exactly. Hey, live your truth so nobody can ever use it against you.
Like Tyrion Lannister. What?
Yeah, sure. Sure, you can make that comparison.
Okay, fair.
Hey, man.
All right, all right.
Shall we move on?
I'm looking over my shoulder now. So we're back here and we have a whole new topic to discuss. But before that, actually, we actually didn't get a chance to go over this. We typically talk before every episode just to get like an idea of what, a better idea of what we're going to discuss. But we left out something, which is news stories. We didn't discuss that. So, to put you on blast, is there anything that you wanted to kind of just kind of go over, highlight us on about over this, of something that happened over this week?
I saw an article, I can't find it, about Stockton starting a limited test of UBI. They're going to be giving like $1,000 to people every month or something. Or no, that was a different guy. I've lost it. Anyway, apparently Stockton is going to be experimenting with UBI. I don't know details.
Oh, interesting.
Other than some people on my Facebook were freaking out about how this is going to completely destroy capitalism. I don't know.
Oh, and for the people at home, UBI, Universal Basic Income, which I'm sure you already know. But yeah, actually, and you're referring to Stockton, California, right?
Yeah, Stockton, California.
I only say that because there's a Stockton. Actually, no, it's a university here in New Jersey. So just a fun fact. But I heard it. I heard that too. Because apparently Stockton is it's an underprivileged county, right? I think.
If I recall correctly, there was a documentary I saw a while ago about how basically it's kind of, they've tried a whole bunch of community restoration projects, and they were hard hit by 2008 because there was like a big scam to build a stadium for the city that was going to attract business, and of course it never actually did because you have to be able to get people to actually come to the stadium. So, and it pretty much just like destroyed the town's finances because it was done through one of those like really bad loans that had like interest that just exploded on you. It was something like that. I haven't watched that documentary in years, so don't quote me on the details.
True. Well, that's definitely going to be. Hopefully, it turns into something so that we can maybe cover it at some point. But we'll definitely update you guys on the details of that later on. But how about you, Chris? Is there anything that you wanted to bring up before we get into our main topic?
Well, I did post two things earlier on in the week in our main public Discord channel from the week. Apparently, ICE detained a pizza delivery man at an army base in Brooklyn while he was delivering pizza to an army base there, Fort Hamilton garrison in Brooklyn. And so, I mean, these people working jobs, working for a living, and they just get detained while on the job nowadays from ICE. So that's happening in our beautiful, amazing country. And also, the White House actually rescinded their invitation to the Philadelphia Eagles because Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And it's a tradition, I guess, at this point where the Super Bowl winners are invited to the White House, and Trump canceled that invitation recently.
Can I just interject how you had to remind everyone who won the Super Bowl because, like, no one cared?
I don't pay attention myself, honestly, usually.
But you know what, though? It's hard to say no one cared when you're living in New Jersey, which is right next to Philly, and everybody's going wild. But yeah, it is... Sorry.
There's Philly fever over here right now.
That was mostly joking, but it was just kind of like, we have to remind people just in case they totally don't care.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there like myself that don't really care enough about football or sports in general, that just don't follow that stuff, that wouldn't know, So I mean,
I
know.
Just trying to be nice.
You're not wrong either, Aubrey. Like, Philadelphia Eagles, unlike the Patriots, is a team that hasn't, their players hasn't transcended the game of football. Like how people can think of, Tom Brady. Everyone knows Tom Brady, despite the fact whether or not you watch football, But, in, the Patriots, everyone knows that team despite, not rooting for them or watching a single game of football.
Won, 20 Super Bowls in the last 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, they're they won 15 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. I don't know how that works, but
I don't know how, but they somehow managed it.
Pretty much.
I've heard something about football deflation being involved. I don't know.
Yep, Deflategate.
Deflategate for sure. But
every conspiracy or scandal involves gate at some point. There is a gate involved somewhere.
Exactly.
But, to give a little bit more context here, though, on this story, apparently President Trump rescinded the invitation over what he says is a disagreement on standing during the national anthem. Oh, this is familiar. However, none of the Eagles players took a knee during the anthem in 2017-2018 season. Not once did any of the players take a knee.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Which is really interesting, that the reason why Mr. Trump would rescind his invitation to them would be on a disagreement over standing during the national anthem, and they all did it. That's just amazing to me. But it
was funny because I was talking to my roommate about that. Because he commented, he was like, because he saw the picture that apparently Fox News shared of their quarterback kneeling. And he was like, oh, that's he's super religious. He prays before every game and after every game and stuff like that. He couldn't remember the guy's name, but he knew that he was super religious. He's like, he always makes a big deal out of it. And the only reason he even knew that is because he really likes the Green Bay Packers, being from Wisconsin. So, he noticed it when they play.
Interesting.
I think is something really important to acknowledge too in this whole Trump, rescinding thing, is that Jerry Jones, who is arguably the most famous NFL team owner. It's a funny sentence, but it's true. He is the most notable NFL team owner, and he owns the Dallas Cowboys, who happens to be a very, very popular team. He was on record because he had to testify in front of a committee over team owners' potential collusion in the blackballing of Colin Kaepernick. Jerry Jones, in front of that committee, wound up saying that he did have various phone calls with Donald Trump, and Trump, in a moment of loose lips, of having loose lips, Jerry Jones says that Donald Trump specifically told him that this kneeling, the NFL protesting, is good for him politically. And there was also other accounts of team owners saying that they have had conversations with Donald Trump specifically about this, which leads me to the next part of this, which is that Colin Kaepernick is we are expecting that Colin Kaepernick will subpoena Donald Trump because it is illegal for a sitting president to influence the business of any organization. So
it's weird. It's as if like the government is not actually supposed to curtail free speech in some way.
Especially
it
when
seems like our current government might be doing something like that.
Yeah, especially when the reason is that it's good for them politically. That's really bad, and it like, I don't, as far as I know, like in terms of like human rights organizers, they're saying that that's a pretty serious offense. So I don't know where it's going to go, but yeah, that's a little detail about the whole thing.
Well, at the end of the day, it sells MAGA hats, so that's what's important.
Still working. Exactly.
Yeah, well, and actually, the whole thing started when Eagles players said that they wouldn't be going to the White House, period, like back when they were still invited.
Some of them, yeah.
And then Trump responded by saying he didn't want any of the team there. And then he decided the kneeling thing, and then immediately cue Fox frantically searching for any of the Eagles players kneeling and coming up with the praying image.
Poor little baby. Oh, poison such a poor little baby.
I'm going to take my ball.
Somebody hurt his little feelings. Fucking loser.
Yeah.
I hate this guy so much, man.
Also, I'd like to give a shout out to the NBA teams, the Golden State and Cleveland Cavaliers, because both teams have came out and said, who are in the finals currently, both said that no matter who wins this, we're not going to the White House. Last year, Golden State won, and they didn't go to the White House either. It was like a
is that college teams?
It was a consensus that, hey, we're not going as a team. We don't like this guy.
Is that college teams or something?
No, they're NBA teams.
Oh, NBA.
Yeah, well, especially in the NBA, but I think also in the NFL, the majority of players are black. Why would you want to go to see a president who's pretty much a fucking racist asshole?
Yeah. Exactly.
What gave you that impression that he was a racist asshole? The decades of him, or maybe not decades, but like at least 8 years of basically saying that the president actually isn't an American citizen just because he's black?
Or was it the time where he discriminated against...
I believe... I was thinking of the Central Park 5.
Yeah.
And the numerous counts of him getting caught refusing to allow people to rent in his buildings just because they're black.
Yes. Yep. That is what I was going to refer to. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
So many things.
Also the pandering to racists, which I understand why he's pandering to them. I mean, they're like the easiest people to appease in the world. Of course,
they got him elected.
That gets everybody else against you.
Sure did.
But
So all right.
It's fun.
We're gonna move on from that. That was heavy. Yeah.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah,
it is.
Nice.
Oh, also, I would just like to say, on a more serious note, I'd like to say, like, I'm really, really saddened by the death of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade. that's kind of like my story is just like this. How apparently we're at a high in terms of suicide right now as a nation, and I would just like to take time just to shed some light on that as an issue, and that really feeling for the people who are directly affected by those events that took place. So, really sad.
Yeah, suicide is a serious thing, guys, and a lot of people have those thoughts and tendencies at times, and they need your support. Anyone that you know that might be withdrawing in some way, like that can be an early sign that there's something wrong. You really should take maybe more extra effort to go out of your way to see how they're doing. Maybe I don't know. Like it's a really, really tough situation.
As someone who actually has been suicidal in the past, when you want to be by yourself and you just kind of want to detach and disconnect from everything, having people kind of force their way in when you don't want them to is pretty much going to make them even want to withdraw even more, and it's going to actually make them angry, and it's not going to be helpful
force the issue.
To them. It's a very complicated and delicate thing.
It is, yeah.
Gods know my parents handled it all wrong, but
I know we've all had our struggles.
Yeah,
I know I've had my fair share of them too. So
yeah, it's complicated, and I think also remembering that there are many, many reasons why people can be depressed and suicidal, and even if you've been suicidal and depressed before yourself in the past, try to avoid projecting how you felt onto them, because it might not be the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good, yeah.
And
that's good.
If anyone in our audience is out there that is dealing with depression, we have a Discord open, and I'm almost always in there. If you need someone to talk to, you can always come in there and talk to us. I'll absolutely talk to you. But
we're definitely, thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, we're definitely very receptive to our fans, and so definitely drop in there. It's open. It's, in lack of a better word, it's kind of a safe space for people who do deal with certain things and do want to talk about certain things, and because we've experienced those things too. I've experienced it too. When you have those kind of urges or deal with depression, you're part of a community of people who are struggling every day, and who all have their different reasons for what they're dealing with. And also, you're a part of a community of people who have improved and who are improving, who as individuals have different models in terms of how they got into where they are. Yeah. So it's all different, and you're part of a journey amongst millions of people, probably billions around the world.
I don't think we've really ever talked about depression too much as a topic yet. I think we should definitely do that at some point, because it is a big thing. I think everyone in our modern society goes through it, actually. Like, I've not
to certain
known
degrees.
anyone.
There's,
I think everyone that I've ever known has had bouts of depression. It's natural right now. I don't know why it's so common in our modern world. Maybe it's always been common. That is very possible too. I guess things weren't great before our modern times either, but it's just different now than it was back then, I guess, in some ways. But would definitely like to look into that and delve into that a little bit deeper in the future.
Yeah, we certainly will.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and moving on to our main topic. So, I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What does Singapore, Switzerland, Turkey, New Zealand, Mexico, Netherlands, Greece, Italy, I can keep going on. What does all these places have in common?
They are not the United States.
Damn.
There's that. They all are inhabited by human beings as well. There's probably dogs in them, Probably cats too, actually.
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches, yes. They're they're everywhere. Those things. Jeez.
You guys are good.
One continent that has cockroaches. That's Antarctica.
What else is there that's probably going to be there? Bears? They gotta have bears, right? It's probably.
Yeah, no, yes, you guys are
Fucking
good.
bears.
So, yeah, you got our topic tonight is bears, and so we're just gonna talk about like the different species. Hell no,
It might not be a bad idea for a topic at some point, but
oh, Chris, everything's a good idea for.
hey, I mean that's
kind of
science,
bear?
you know. I mean, science is good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But no,
I enjoy bear porn. That's fun, you know. Two big, hairy, manly men, you know.
you know that's it. We're not
Bear
gonna let you explain
force
yourself out of that
one.
one. That you heard it here. So
I need to pull the Bear Force One song and actually have that as a drop. Oh man.
all right. So, but no, yes, all those things are true that you guys said. But also, what's true about all those countries is that prostitution is decriminalized, or i.e. sex work. So so tonight that is the topic, something that probably blindsided you a little bit. I mean, actually no, it's in the name of the episode, so but
No, we
but
should
yeah,
put bears
really
in the name of the
what'd you say?
we should put bears in the name of the episode.
A study of bears.
Dangers of bears.
Oh my god. Do it. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about this because I do actually happen to follow some people on social media who actually I didn't know until they maybe posted something about them being sex workers, and these are people who are very progressive. They're like, you know, they're very like pro women's rights. They're like hardcore feminists, and I thought they were super cool. And so yeah, so also so getting that
as soon as you found out they were sex workers, they weren't cool anymore, right?
yeah, I was like unfollow.
Yeah, Jordan doesn't like that kind of thing.
Like, you dirty whores.
Wow, jeez,
Yeah, no,
that's horrible of you, Jordan. What is wrong with you? You're a terrible person.
I wanted to spouse my hatred for prostitution. No, but
Oh, okay.
Wow, getting really strong now. Jeez.
there
Damn.
you go. Yeah, you didn't know that. So. Oh my
Anyway.
god.
Anyway,
So yeah, I really wanted to kind of dispel some certain stigmas that are attached to it as a profession. I mean, it being the oldest profession in like humanity, and also kind of reveal some things that you may not have known before. And so, just to start things off, I would like to at least give some context into the definition of decriminalization, which is, according to endslaverynow.org, quote, decriminalization allows prostitution to take place without codifying into law what models or types of prostitution are permitted. So yeah, basically it's it's putting the control of the profession itself into the hands of people, into everyday people who are within the industry, you know, instead of say legalization, which is like its cousin, which to give more context is, what do you say?
I said kissing cousins.
Oh yeah, no. That's actually a good analogy because it's true.
this is terrible already.
I swear,
maybe-
I have only had Skittles tonight. No
Mhm.
alcohol.
Skittles is
Oh
code
my
for
God.
something, I think.
Yeah, that's the street term. But but just to give give an example of what legalization is. Oh, my pencil just fell. Sorry. Is what we have in Nevada. So Nevada does happen to be the only state in the U.S. where there's legalization of sex work, and specifically brothel sex work. So yeah, in Nevada, it's only brothel prostitution or sex work is only legal within counties with a population below 700,000, which means it does not include Las Vegas, where, most. Yes, go. What'd you say?
Oddly arbitrary.
Yeah.
Wonder if there's a reason for that.
I'm sure there is, but I can't imagine that it's
to
a very
stop
good
people
one.
coming into Las Vegas specifically to go get laid while they go get gambling. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. So in some of those some of the measures which makes it legalized is the fact that it's only restricted to brothel, with restricted within brothels. And within those brothels, State Board of Health requires sex workers to undergo testing for STIs, which means that brothels can't employ people until results are received. Also, they get monthly blood testing for HIV and syphilis. And also, brothels cannot advertise within counties or cities where sex work is not legal. So, that's a little context and the difference between, decriminalization and legalization.
I can definitely see some pros to a legalization there. Like actually getting the blood work and everything. That's important. Keeping on top of sexually transmitted diseases and stuff is really important. And that, to me, is a good regulation to have on this kind of work, because it keeps them safe and the people that go to them safe.
Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why they don't allow even advertising and they have to be outside of like major population areas is so that people, for example, coming in for Las Vegas, well, they may know that it's legal elsewhere in Nevada, but they don't know where.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be very difficult for them to get there because most people fly in these days anyway. So it's not like they can just go on a road trip. So. I mean,
I'm sure there's probably like some way to get around it, but yeah.
People know where the bunny ranch is.
Well, that's one thing, but
that's not. But like, it's kind of like it's a way of kind of trying to keep it minimized so that it's not like an actual part of their tourism industry because they don't want to be known for it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah. So yeah, those are definite pros of legalizing prostitution. But there's also pros to just decriminalization, which include sex workers being able to unionize, having the option to unionize, which doesn't necessarily not make it a part of legalization. Also, there'll be full protection under labor and human rights laws, not laws specifically designed for sex work. Also, it'll free up space, it'll free up tax dollars, from booking and processing and, sitting in prison or holding cells. And
they would actually go to the cops when they're abused by a John?
Yes, exactly. That's really big. And that was actually something, Chris, you brought up in our discussion before we started officially recording.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part of what I see the future with this being. Like right now, when you make prostitution illegal, we've already said it. It's the oldest profession on Earth, and it's probably going to be the very last profession on Earth. It's going to be with us forever. No matter what we do, no matter how much we criminalize it, it's going to be there. Because humans have a sex drive, and you're just not going to clamp that down with shame and religion.
Think about it. If you guys could, have sex for your job and get paid for it, there's probably a hell of a lot of guys would be like, yeah, that sounds fun. And fun too. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why some women actually go out and seek out these careers. It's because, you just get to have sex for a job. That's it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. There's some people with normal to a more than normal sex drive who, are enticed by the idea of having this as a profession. So why not give them the opportunity or the possibility of exercising that that one?
Yeah, and sex work is not just prostitution either. It could also be porn, as well. You can do that whole thing too. But I think if when we're making it illegal, like we were just saying, it does make it so that these women that do the prostitution, if a John or a man or a woman for that matter paying for their services abuses them in some way, doesn't pay them, hits them, hurts them in any way, they don't have a legal recourse to go after them. And so some people will take advantage of that knowledge because people know it's illegal, so they will treat the prostitutes like utter garbage, potentially. And the only recourse that these women and men that are prostitutes have is to have hired muscle. Some kind of some person.
This is where
that
the pimp
will,
system tends to come in.
Exactly. Some person that will protect them in some way and rough someone up that didn't pay, or someone that hurt the girl or something like that,
Or guy.
Girl or guy, yes. And yeah, I said it a couple times already, but yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm just picking on you.
that's fine. But yeah, it's when we can actually allow these women to go to the cops. We can actually do something more for them. It's going to be a safer environment for everyone, not just the regular society, but these women and men that are in this line of work. They deserve protection too from abuse and
Right.
and all that.
For sure. And that's actually a really good point, is about like the benefits. The benefits, not only to people within the industry, but even people outside the industry, to society at large. So, actually, I have some stats which are really, 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 really interesting. And so let's focus back at home in the U.S. So in Rhode Island, indoor prostitution was actually legal between the years of 2003 to 2009. And it was actually based on the technicality of an amendment that they didn't, actually an amendment back in the 1980s that they didn't realize until the year 2009, which is really funny. But I don't believe it was really taken advantage of until the year 2003, between 2003 and 2009. But, that's government at its finest. But,
Yay, loopholes.
Yay. But yeah, because of that very unique unique time and unique position of a state in the U.S., a study had to be done. We have to figure out, what came out of it. And so a 2014 study was done between amongst different doctors and scholars are connected to many different universities here in the U.S. That discovered 31% or 824 of fewer reported rapes, and a decrease of approximately 2,000 cases of gonorrhea was during that period, which is really something. And also, since we're on this topic of statistics, I'd also like to bring up a stat in the Netherlands, which discovered a reduction in the report of rape and sexual abuse by as much as 30 to 40% within the first 2 years, when areas designated for sex work opened up. So, according to those researchers, legalized zones led to, quote, a decrease in sexual violence on women more generally by providing an anonymous, appealing, and easily accessible outlet for sex to otherwise violent individuals. That is very, very interesting. That I think is something a lot of people, including myself, before really researching into this, considered. What, aside from like the freedom of the sex worker, how does that translate to everyone else? And yeah, we have those stats.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The one thing that I want to say here is like, yeah, it does make sense that sexual violence would go down if this type of thing is legalized. It makes sense to me because when you give people a legal avenue to seek what they need, like some people, desire to have sex and they will stop at nothing to get it. And if you give them a legal way to do it, they'd probably rather do that than go to jail for rape, And so they're probably going to tend towards the legal option that they have, which I guess in some cases, some people just aren't able to attain, a relationship in that way with other means than just a monetary system in it, like it's tough for a lot of people out here, and there are a lot of people that this helps them. And so like it would make sense to me that we legalize it, and these people are less prone to rape and less prone to violence towards others in that way, and trying to violently get at their ends. If you make it illegal, they're going to just go at it illegally. And some of those will be through prostitution, anyway, that's illegal. And, or others will just be through violence.
Also, before you illuminate a little bit more, Aubrey, I would like to just append what I said a little with this, and that is that there is increased police presence within zones, within those zones. So with that, there's also the owners of these establishments or windows, because they rent out windows in Amsterdam for sex workers to advertise. They monitor and walk around their different windows just to make sure that there isn't any violence being done to the sex worker too. So yeah, just wanted to add that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure because of the nature of rape, I'm not sure it's entirely due to lack of ability to get sex.
I'm not trying to say that's the only reason.
That is a component.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that is a slightly more nuanced situation. That's very hard to diagnose.
Yeah. But we could see from those the statistics, though, that it does help lower the incidence rate. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yes. But I would also, and I think the increased police presence actually probably does more to deter that than, it's like, well, am I going to try to prey upon someone, or oh crap, there's a cop. Okay, I'm just going to go in here then. Still get my rocks off. So okay.
I mean, it's a similar situation to like I remember back when the Miami shooting happened. The guy was planning on shooting up another place, but he chose upon a nightclub because he thought there was going to be less security. So that's why he chose that place as opposed to the other.
He was initially planning on hitting Disney or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of like Disney mall or something like that, I think.
Yeah. But I kind of wanted to get back to the less cases of, I think you said specifically gonorrhea.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, for sure.
So I keep hearing stories of guys who are oddly resistant to using condoms. When they pick up, they go out for their one night stands or whatever, and they're oddly resistant to using condoms, despite the fact that they have no idea how many partners she's had, when she's been tested last, etc. And they seem to get oddly huffy when women are like, yeah, no, please wear a condom. However, when you're going and you're paying someone for sex, someone you know that has sex for a living, well, you know full well that she's had a lot of partners. So you're going to be a lot more inclined to use a condom.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
So, yeah. So I think that has a psychological effect. Plus, in addition, actual regulations, requirements that says, no, you're going to use a condom or you're not going to get sex.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Also, I think that was the one main component where I knew this topic would be the most controversial, which is that statistic that may make a correlation between sexual dissatisfaction or sexual anxiety or sexual along those lines. Other words where pre-pen sex and another something. But yeah, it would draw a correlation between that and the act of rape, where I think, Aubrey, you made a good point, which is, yes, rape did decrease within these areas, and there could be a subset of individuals who may be brought to that place because of that sexual frustration that they may have, which is very scary. Were you going to say something?
Well, we kind of see that a little bit with the incels and stuff, but I don't see that even if we had, legal prostitution here, I'm still pretty sure that the incels wouldn't actually avail themselves of that, because they seem to have this idea that they are owed, one woman who is to cater to their every whim, sexual and physical and everything else. So I don't know if that would necessarily actually address that. So I'm not sure how much of that comes from actual sexual frustration and just hatred for women.
Right. That's another good point. And it also just shows like the nuance of what predators of predators, there are different types that do it for different reasons. And so unfortunately doing this would not eradicate, the
it doesn't fix problems so much as it makes it easier to actually see through the symptoms to the underlying root of the problem.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it too. But actually, kind of, I want to move on to the shining city on a hill when it comes to decriminalization of prostitution, and that's New Zealand. I actually didn't know this, and that's kind of wild. But New Zealand is kind of known as the golden standard for, decriminalization there, which they legalized or decriminalized in 2003. And so the way they have it, which is that some city councils, they make district plans to control where brothels are located, similar to the way that bars are treated. And brothel operators, they have to receive a brothel operator certificate filed through court to run their business. Also, New Zealand Immigration Services, they visit brothels on a regular basis just to look for people who are being trafficked. So they have things in place in order to police sex trafficking. And but lastly, and sadly, actually, because you're about to find out, which is that it is illegal for migrant sex workers to practice in New Zealand, and it's actually done in a bid to suppress trafficking victims. But however, migrant sex workers are working illegally in New Zealand anyway, despite the law. Of
course they are.
Yeah. So yeah, I just does that sound like a golden model to you for decriminalization, you think?
It sounds like they've gone about it like pretty well. No model is like perfect. And there's always going to be, even with, like legal weed and stuff like that and, all the different places across the United States now, there's still illegal weed to be found. And there's still, even within those areas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like it's addressing the problem as best as you can through the legal framework, and then just take care of it when you find it illegally, I guess.
Mhm.
I know it's a difficult question because there's a certain part of us that has been kind of culturally trained to just kind of cringe at the thought of sex work.
Mhm.
Which is there's a lot of roots for that, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's not a simple thing. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all legalization efforts are like amazing either. I mean, in Thailand, they have legal prostitution, but there's also a major problem with trafficking in did I say New Zealand? I meant Thailand.
Oh no, yeah.
I
Thailand.
think you said Thailand, but I don't remember. Now.
Okay, sorry. I just halfway through that thought, all of a sudden I was like, wait, did I misspeak? But I mean, yeah, it is a major problem there, but I guess it's a problem their government doesn't really care about.
Yeah, and that's and to me, it seems like that is an issue that needs to be targeted specifically altogether, because on the same website where I got the definition for decriminalization of sex work, enslaverynow.org, they also have, because that is their agenda, is they're a profit to eradicate sexual slavery. But they say that they have a little thing here that I want to quote, which says that, quote, changing policy related to prostitution alone will not decrease sex trafficking or either begin to address the real issues that cause sex trafficking. If lack of economic opportunity, gender inequality, or culture of passivity, social norms that permit trafficking and normalize violence are left unaddressed, sex trafficking will continue. No prostitution-related policy or model sufficiently eliminates any of these root causes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's basically, I mean, I've heard stories of like little girls who are like, 5 or 6 years old being sold into sexual slavery in Thailand because their family just can't afford to eat. I mean, it's a real problem, but, and legalizing prostitution doesn't solve the problems, but also making it illegal doesn't really help either. The two are pretty much unconnected. It has more to do with the underlying roots of the problem. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, by kind of making it so that the symptoms are no longer masking the actual problem, we can actually start to come to a solution.
Right. Exactly. And also, so let's, so in terms of decriminalization and legalization, there are other countries that are kind of, that their goal is to target sex trafficking, except by criminalizing prostitution, which happens to be, one model is called the Swedish or Nordic model, which criminalizes the buying rather than the selling of sexual services. So, and these are and that model is adopted by Iceland and Norway, and it's being considered in other countries such as the UK, Canada, and France. So yeah, there's some boneheaded, attempts to eradicate sexual slavery, and which kind of seems even more dumb after the stats that we presented you, and also the quote I just gave you and what you just said, Aubrey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just not a correlation there.
Yeah, we also have a really bad tendency to treat all human trafficking as though it is sex slavery, and that's actually not the case.
Yeah, I even messed up there. Yeah, I've been saying sexual slavery. Yeah.
Yeah. Sex trafficking is just a small part of human trafficking. I mean, like, for example, those recently, when the government lost, like 1,500 kids. Well, it turned out actually it was just 1,500 people didn't respond when the government asked them, hey, where's the kids at? But at the same time, they did find 8 of those kids working on an egg farm in Ohio, basically as slaves, doing slave labor. And there's a major problem in, I want to say African mines, but I think probably also in other parts of the world as well, particularly in mines where they prefer to use child labor because children can get into small spaces.
Blood diamonds. Yeah.
Blood diamonds, yes. Yeah, thank you.
That's was always that's a big thing over in Africa. I know there's even been like evangelical preachers and stuff tied to that kind of thing. I think even
Pat
Robertson, is one of those people. He's on what is that network? The Bible Network or something like that.
Club.
Yeah, he's on the 700 Club
TBN,
on the Bible Network. I think is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy, he is definitely a very, very wealthy man, and he's made some of that money from slave labor essentially in Africa, using these children to go into these tiny holes in these mines and everything to get him diamonds that he can sell to make profit while giving them basically nothing. And
And I think also one of the major components in smartphones also is mined in a similar way.
Yeah.
I think it's used in smartphone screens, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, there's all kinds of precious metals and stuff in some of our most modern technology, and we don't really know where it comes from on an individual level here. But some of these things do come from these nefarious practices and these essentially slavery practices.
Yeah, it's modern day slavery, and it's we call it human trafficking now because it sounds better, I guess. But that doesn't make it any less slavery.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much.
That's true.
Sexual slavery, sex trafficking is just one part of the human trafficking problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I also you brought up something a little bit earlier, Aubrey, about how we tend to have a stigma attached to the idea of sex work, and I think that actually is that's coupled with our stigma with sex altogether in the States here, and I was thinking about it throughout this podcast, and it's interesting how those a lot of those countries I brought up, just about all of them that I brought up, but there were some other ones that were outside of this region, that decriminalized sex work is within Europe, which have a different seem to respond to sex a lot differently than we do.
Yeah, well, we've got our Puritan roots to thank for that. It is. We were settled by religious extremists, and they have passed down a lot of their views to us, even if we've rejected, Puritans aren't a thing anymore, but we still have Puritan attitudes towards a lot of things. It's just kind of something that we'll probably always struggle with as a people. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to bring up just some interesting things that we tend to accept here in the States, which is violence, except our inability to accept, say, a breast or a buttocks or a sexual organ.
Janet Jackson had that nip slip at the Super Bowl. Everybody freaked out.
She's not the weird part about it, just to wrap into like how misogynistic our society is, especially like the NFL in particular, is that the person who did who revealed Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, was happily allowed to perform again on a Super Bowl halftime show.
High five.
Except boom, there you go. Except Janet Jackson, no, I'm sorry, you're blackballed, and you're actually there's actually a stigma within entertainment now. So
let's be fair, Jordan. It wasn't his fault that it happened. I don't know, but yeah, it is kind of stupid that she pays a price and he doesn't. Yeah, that's really silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well,
yes. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, like, but I mean, like, even our attitudes towards sex and stuff, like, you know, it should be for procreation only and not for fun. Well, that's straight out of Puritanism, because you're not allowed to have fun in Puritanism. It's just not allowed. Anything fun, banned. They banned Christmas, you know.
Damn, it's a fun fact for the day. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, they banned Christmas. The Puritans were essentially an even more strict version of Christianity. Basically, so there was that, what was that, the British Revolution or whatever? Civil War, the English Civil War, where, like, you know, Cromwell took over. They actually banned Christmas during that period because, you know, Cromwell, he was a religious fundamentalist and stuff and super against all that. But the thing is, the Puritans looked at Cromwell and said, that guy is too liberal.
That's insane.
So, yeah. They actually, they were really out there.
No, when you say
but
Cromwell,
you know, we hold the Pilgrims up. I mean, like, you go and you listen to, like, our Thanksgiving stuff and our stories about the founding of America. The Pilgrims are seen as just poor, innocent, religious refugees fleeing Europe from religious persecution, except for the fact that they had themselves moved away from England to the Netherlands, purposely exiling themselves because, you know, they didn't want their kids exposed to all the other stuff. But then their kids were becoming too acclimated to the Netherlands culture, and they were learning, you know, like, other languages and intermixing with the others. So then they decided to come to the U.S., or, modern day U.S., because, you know, well, there we'll finally be on our own, and we'll finally have religious freedom to not be around other people that
they'll have a land of their own
from us.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is completely made up in the first place. But, you know, we hold them up on a pedestal and we're like, oh, these poor religious, you know, oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, up until at least recently, we've put Christopher Columbus up on that pedestal too.
Oh, yeah.
We're now finally being more exposed to the darkest sides of what he was doing in his time. He was a horrible, horrible person that we should not actually celebrate because of the terrible things that he's done. But yeah, it's really interesting how we can stick with something like that for so long, even though we've known for so long now that it's been terrible, that there was something really, really wrong going on. But, you know. Yeah,
well, and it's... American culture is kind of strange. We have this tendency to, we know it's a problem, but I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be taken care of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit! 50,000 people just died in or however many people died in a fire in Chicago. Fire safety codes now! Immediate mass change! Everyone freak the fuck out!
Week later, no one cares anymore. You know?
And, you know, like, oh, the Cuyahoga River's on fire again. Oh, well, you know, that's just the price of living in a capitalist society. No big deal. Freedom, am I right? Shit, it was in the newspaper and other people know about it now. We need an EPA.
Oh, man. Yeah, that goes to the heart of what was mentioned within that quote that I gave, which is cultural passivity.
I mean, that's pretty much the hallmark of American culture is we just kind of put up with things until suddenly it hits that tipping point where we can't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's some to do with, like, human nature in itself, honestly, with that as well. Like, this is something that's happened forever, you know, like, there's always been a peasant class, like, before our modern times, and those people sort of just put up with it because it was like, well, it's the best I can do. Oh, well, I guess I'll make the best of it. And, like, it's sort of the same thing that happens with our modern society too, where like, things are really kind of messed up. But there. What's that?
I think you're equivocating a little bit there. I mean, other nations don't necessarily have the same attitude towards it that we do.
Maybe not, but
and of course, the peasant class not rising up against the ruling class had less to do with them just simply accepting their place and them believing that they couldn't actually do anything about it.
Well, it all sort of goes hand in hand in some ways. It's unfortunate, and like it like before the civil rights movement,
also had them being religiously indoctrinated into believing that was the place that God put them in, and how dare they go against God's will. So I mean, there was many facets of that.
Yeah, it's passivity through some ways of like controlling people how they think, and some of that is through religion. Well, you have to be a good Christian, and to be a good Christian, you have to be good to your slave master because he's a Christian too, so he's doing God's work, and you're doing God's work because you're his slave, and it's just like. They use different ways to pacify people, and I think they use it because it works, and there's something to do with human nature in itself that people are really easily manipulated in that way. I don't know exactly what it is.
I dislike removing the agency from people by saying that they're being manipulated specifically. Because that's something that I see all the time is people going, oh, they're just being manipulated and they don't know any better. Really? You know how incredibly patronizing that sounds? Incredibly patronizing.
I'm not really coming at it from that.
We're all just a bunch of tiny little kids. I know, and that's really more of an argument with something else. But it's an argument that kind of makes me kind of just cringe. But anyway, back to legalize prostitution and all that.
Yeah, definitely. No, we'll cover that in a separate episode. That'll be another topic. Freedom. What is it? Freedom of expression and of individuality, and all those. It's all the rage these days. We'll definitely get into that. But also, Aubrey, you said you're talking about Cromwell, right?
Oh yeah.
No, did you mean yeah? Did you mean Comstock? Oh, okay. That was a little BioShock Infinite humor for people out there. And I knew that wasn't going to go over well. I just wanted to say it.
Sorry, no, I haven't actually played BioShock.
Oh, it's cool. No way. It's.
I could probably actually play it now that I actually have a PC, but that can play video games. Because I just can't do first-person games with a controller. It just doesn't work for me.
Wait, Aubrey, let's give Chris an opportunity to make that drop.
Okay,
all right, let's do it.
Oh, it was there, It's okay.
Okay. I felt like you kept like starting and stopping, like, damn it, I haven't felt like you're just waiting for a lull.
No, it was just going that whole time.
Oh, okay, gotcha. But yeah, wait, let me see. Nope, that's about it. That's all I got. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. That was another gag that I had. It didn't quite go over well that time either. But that's okay. So yeah, I think we definitely we touched on a lot of what I wanted to talk about tonight, and yeah, I think is there any other additions that you would like to add before closing?
Well, I would, I guess, say I want us to build better society. This is really a general thing that you can encompass with everything. With this is included, like society needs to, function for everyone. And I feel like society should be good for everyone. Society should be fair for everyone. Everyone should be protected under the law. And we should be working towards those goals. And making sex work illegal is really not helping that in any way. It's not really solving any problem at all. It just sort of like, if anything, it's like the same of like sticking your fingers in your ears and going la 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 and like just trying to like block out something that you don't like, that you think is distasteful.
And let's be honest, hitting mute just works a lot better.
I guess you could do that too. But like it's you know, like we're trying to make life better for everyone, and these people are going to exist no matter what. There's going to be people in that line of work no matter what. And so what we can do is you know, at least make their lives a little bit better by decriminalizing it and maybe even helping them in some ways by slight regulations, like, you know, like testing and making sure that they're safe, and having the cops able to intervene when they actually are abused and hurt by people. You know, that's important to me. And if we want to build a better society, I think that's one thing that we can do that will make society less violent, there will be less crime, because there will be options for people to go out there and have sex if they want to, legally, in a way that doesn't require them going on 1,000,001 dates and trying to find the right person at times. You know, if that's something that's too much for someone, you know, they should have.
That's only going to be somebody who's really picky.
Yeah, maybe. And it's also like,
I mean, if sex is the goal, someone who's going on 1,000,001 dates in order to find the right person to have sex with, that's someone who's really picky.
Maybe. It's possible, but it's also like, I also wanted to just say though, it's all right if you don't like sex work yourself. You know, like, you don't ever have to partake in prostitution yourself at all. You know, I myself, I do find in some ways I can't actually desire doing that ever. I don't like the ideas of it personally. And I don't ever plan on going out and ever having, you know, money or sex for money like that. But that's okay. You know, I don't want to do it myself. I don't have to. It's sort of like drugs. You know, you don't have to do them. You know, it's drinking. You don't have to drink. It's legal to do, but you don't have to do it, you know? And I think we would be in a better place in society if we could all, you know, understand that concept a little bit more. And I'm sure our audience really does obviously understand that, because they're pretty smart people, because they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
But
can I just say that, I mean, you see a lot of the opposition to sex work and to porn and stuff like that tends to come from women. And the main reason for that has nothing to do with them caring about sex workers. It has everything to do with them being afraid their husbands are going to cheat on them. Because, you know, obviously, if their husband can just go get sex from some horny woman elsewhere, he's just going to go do that, right? And, you know, obviously, if he's going to watch porn, that's going to lead to him wanting to have sex with somebody else. And so that's a lot of what drives that thinking, which is completely irrational, but
happens on both sides, not just men or women.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? It tends to happen more with women that I've noticed anyway.
You know, and on that, I would like to just say to people who may think that way, who may have that anxiety of, if sex work is legal, it might be enticing for my significant other, which is basically that, you know, cheating is it's a part of someone's character. You know, it's not something that, you know, an enticing individual walks by and they go, and they're just like, you know, for a cheater, that will be something they will potentially pursue, someone of that nature. But if someone is a honest person, and, you know, you two are very open in communication, then yeah, that shouldn't necessarily be an issue. So it has, unfortunately, for people who do think that way, I must tell you, it has less to do with the sex worker and more to do with your significant other. So yeah, definitely ponder that.
Yeah, Well, and we have a long tradition of instead of blaming your husband when he cheats, you blame the woman he cheated with, regardless of whether or not she knew he was cheating. I mean, you hear it all the time, like home wrecker. Really? You're going to call the other woman that, but not the man who literally just left your home.
Yeah,
who left the door open.
I'll be honest, I with my previous relationship, my ex cheated on me a few times, and I do remember back at the time I was more angry with the person that she cheated on with than I was with her, because the dynamic is that you love this person and you want to think the best of them, and so I guess in some ways, you want to believe that there was something outside of their control to try and justify their actions for them in their place. And so we sort of try and like give them the benefit of the doubt. That other person, though, fuck them because they're an asshole. You don't know them. It's easier to push them aside. That's I think the idea.
The thing is, there's a cultural attitude underlying that, which says, it must be the other person's fault for enticing him or her out of the relationship, because obviously they would have never strayed otherwise. It also goes back to that idea that men just can't help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it gets a bit hazy there, but it's the same kind of attitude that, well, of course, because if someone's saying, yeah, sure, hey, let's go have sex, obviously our significant other is going to go do it, right? Except, no, not obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of these problems comes from us trying to force monogamy onto us as a species. It is a cultural construct. Now, some people are just naturally more inclined that way than others. But as a species, we're definitely not monogamous. Certainly not at all like truly monogamous species, which actually do mate for life. And even if, their mate dies, they don't find another mate. That's a truly monogamous species.
Mm-hmm.
We're not like that.
That's another topic. Write that down, Chris.
How about you write it down?
I'll write it down.
Go for it.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody write it down, please.
Somebody get a pen.
No, but yeah, definitely all great points. And once again, that hits on what you said a little bit earlier, Aubrey, that it patronizes an individual's own autonomy. And so it's like you don't say, oh, someone brought my so-and-so to this. It's like, this person has, they have agency. So yeah. But also, I think I would also just like to say that that if just the conversation of, if it actually becomes a serious conversation that we have of decriminalization of sex work, that is culture changing. That can completely shift the culture of America, which is in desperate need of culture shifting. So especially surrounding sex and in sexual empowerment, specifically with women, definitely. And also it'll bring us on track to actually addressing some of the evils that we have within our society. It won't completely eradicate them, but it'll set us on a track to at least start scrutinizing them a little bit more closer. So yes, definitely this needs to happen. But in another so Aubrey, do you have any final words, which will probably end up in just us having another conversation?
I don't know. I don't know. J.D. Scholten won the primary, so he will be going on to face Steve King in the general election. Unfortunately, Kathy Glasson did not win, so we're going to be stuck with Mumble Hubble. Which I call him that because he literally mumbled his way through the last debate. And he is, to be honest, sometimes I wonder if he's actually a Democrat. I don't expect him to win against Kim Reynolds in the fall.
Yeah, I think a lot of what those Democrats tend to be, like, he's in a red state, so they think that the only way that they can win in those states is, well, it's maybe more red than other
reddish.
states. Yeah, but like in some states like that, like I think we were talking about Joe Manchin earlier as well. You know, he is very much on the right wing side of things when it comes to the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party feels like the only way that they can win in some of those states is if they go straight over to the right and look just like a Republican. And so we've seen a million and one advertisements like that.
Republican.
No, it definitely doesn't. And they should have gotten that message from this last election cycle in 2016, but it doesn't seem like they could possibly get that idea because they just don't understand it.
The only message they got out of 2016 was Russia.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway.
All right, yeah. Well, shit, we did it. No, but I'm really happy that we I think we addressed some really important important segments within this topic, and hopefully we can hopefully have this conversation again down the line. Say if anything were to happen, say if some other country legalizes or delegalizes or decriminalizes it, or another state does, maybe we'll revisit this again. But actually, whose topic is it next week? Is it yours, Chris?
I think it's Michael's next, and then Tensai, and then me. But,
oh, gotcha. Do we know what his topic is?
He put up protectionism and globalism.
Probably protectionism versus globalism.
Oh yeah, protectionism versus globalism. Blah, blah, blah. The benefits of international trade and outsourcing versus the benefits of protecting domestic industry with tariffs.
And at some point, we need to have Alex Jones talking about the globalists in there.
The goddamn globalists.
Yeah.
Basically.
Damn, I may need 2.
They're turning the frogs gay.
Oh man. But cool. So yeah, we definitely have that to look forward to, and as I'm sure you noticed, Michael was absent in this show tonight.
I think he's in his bunker right now. From last time, he's
eating some can't. What is it?
Low stamina.
Goddamn.
That's what he has. Low stamina.
Yeah, that's
he
it.
apparently ran out of coffee or something. I don't know.
Maybe. Low energy. Sad.
So thank you for joining us, and I wish Michael a good night. And
good night, sweet prince.
We had a great conversation about the dangers of bears.
Yes. Oh my God.
It was a great conversation about it.
A heavy conversation, but it had to be done. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.